Back in the early 2000s, contrary to now, ArenaFPS were in full bloom. Fragging without any mercy on the recently released Quake 3 Arena, bunny hopping around in Half-Life 1 Deathmatch, and perfecting the shock rifle combo in a real tournament used to be all the rage. However, in 2001, a very popular retro shooter released to the public. Every FPS fan loved it, its campaign and cooperative mod were great, but its PvP got kinda overlooked, because although fun, it wasn't fleshed out at all. Serious Sam the first encounter, in fact, only had one deathmatch map, Desert Temple, which limited the fun players could have, thus everybody stuck to the single player or cooperative. But the basis for a good yet bizarre Arena FPS were certainly there. Fast forward to 1 year and Serious Sam the second encounter released, with new deathmatch maps and a hitscan sniper rifle 3 times deadlier than a railgun, and a much bigger and thriving community, which included a lot of cheaters too. But the whole package was so fun, players were hooked to this unconventional Arena FPS. I say unconventional because Serious Sam, with the press of the H button, turned into a third-person shooter. Third-person shooting might sound a bit lame to some players, because they are probably used to PlayerUnknown Battlegrounds third person that allows camping behind corners, waiting for the unlucky opponent to pass by and get shot. But in a frenetic shooter like Serious Sam, this camera style opened the field for a lot of fun to be had, especially with the double-barrel shotgun. The double-barrel shotgun isn't even that good in single player, but when it came to duel or deathmatch, it was devastating. It's no surprise the double-barrel shotgun is a fan favorite, cause it sounds punchy, its elongated and elegant design looks cool as hell, but most importantly it was very good. Hearing the potency of the blast and butchering people into 3 separate bloody gibs of meat was just one hell of a serotonin rush. Serious Sam also had no difficult movement mechanics to master, such as Quake's strafing or Half-Life bunny hopping, making it a lot more accessible and fun for newcomers. To run faster, you only had to pull out your knife, cause as we all know, you run faster with a knife.
We can go for a jog.
Okay, but what are you doing with a knife?
What do you mean? Run faster with a knife. Everyone runs faster with a knife.
And god, this knife was deadly as hell. Backstabbing people dealt an insane amount of damage, and even hitting them from the front would almost always make your opponent meet his maker. The second and only movement trick you could perform in Serious Sam was boosting the height of your jump if you jumped while running up a slope. A simple move, yet very useful to surprise enemies camping behind the corner with the third person. It also allowed to go out of bound in maps like Little Trouble, or to take shortcuts to reach big important items. Another noob-friendly feature was that the beefy rocket launcher, and I love the design of Serious Sam rocket launcher, had a larger and deadlier splash damage than Quake's counterpart. Despite of this, the missile traveled more slowly than Quake, making it easier to dodge. These small differences made it so the rocket launcher in Serious Sam wasn't really the player's first choice in close to mid-range fights. The pros would in fact rather use the double-barrel shotgun, while the noobs loved the rocket launcher, although the huge splash radius would sometimes get them killed by their own rockets in close-range encounters. I also prefer Serious Sam grenade launcher to Quake grenade launcher. First of all, it looks cooler, and second, but most importantly, in Quake the grenade launcher was just a tool to spam some areas of the map to zone enemies out, while instead in Serious Sam the grenade launcher secondary fire lets you charge the speed of the grenade, and if aimed well, enemies implode fast. Oh, and it's a better spamming tool as well. Let's also touch on what is probably the strongest weapon in Serious Sam multiplayer, the sharp-looking Raptor sniper rifle. One well-aimed bullet from this not-so-futuristic gun and your adversaries are magically turned into a chunky piece of meat. Unlike the Quake 3 railgun, which took at least 2 to 3 shots to frag enemies at full health with some armor, this scrappy piece of wood and metal shreds through any opponent that isn't fully stacked. And if it falls in the hand of the strongest player of the server, or the one with the better wallhack, it was game over for everyone. Although strong, the developers placed it in locations that were either hard to reach or very exposed to enemy fire. This partly countered its stopping power, but yeah, I argue it was a bit too strong. But another reason why the sniper was so good was that most of Serious Sam maps are very open and spacious and not as tight as Quake's. Continuing with the Quake 3 analogies, the minigun was the stronger counterpart of the lightning gun. I say stronger cause unlike the Thunderbolt shooting gun, only utilizable at close range, the minigun had the infinite range and, on top of that, almost perfect accuracy. Hearing hundreds of bullets whistling in your proximity was a telltale sign that you had been spotted. As overpowered as the minigun might sound, its muzzle flash and sound revealed the position of your enemy, and returning fire with the powerful sniper rifle was always a good strategy. Then we have the laser gun, which acted pretty much like the plasma gun in Quake, very useful to spam tight hallways or dangerous corners. I think the laser gun design is cooler than the plasma gun, but I still prefer the Quake's super nail gun over any type of energy weapon because nails are just edgy and cool. On to the less useful weapons. The Tommy gun is essentially a worse version of the minigun, with the benefit that you don't have to heat up your barrels before firing. Then we have the single action pump shotgun, which always reminded me of the Doom 1 shotgun, but in Serious Sam it's a terrible weapon with huge spread that nobody uses given that the double barrel shotgun exists. Then we have the starting revolvers that act like the Unreal Tournament Enforcer, and they can be dual wielded in akimbo. Lastly, there is the flamethrower, which is utterly useless and a recipe for failure in multiplayer. One overarching rule in Serious Sam Deathmatch is that the time to kill is a lot faster than Quake. This made the gameplay more snappy and fast, cause one shot is usually enough to murder your enemy, while instead in Quake it takes 4+ railgun shots or 3 rockets to kill someone. Because of this, a noob can still get a lucky shot and feel good about himself. The low time to kill might be one of the reasons why Serious Sam multiplayer never really saw much competitive play. Quake 3 was in fact a lot more balanced and strategical in its duels, and, as such, more suited for big prize pools tournaments. But, when it comes to having fun, I believe that simplicity is key, and Serious Sam stood at a perfect middle ground between offering a hardcore yet enjoyable ArenaFPS experience. Another main reason why Serious Sam never made it into the competitive scene is that unfortunately the netcode wasn't the best. Fake hits were an usual occurrence, and fake deaths too. Fake deaths were especially maddening to experience because for a split second you could see your opponents being melted into a piece of flesh, only for him to come back to life and blast your body in minced meat. This was obviously unacceptable in a competitive environment, but oh well, I still enjoyed the game anyways, and everybody did as well. And even though Serious Sam HD, released in 2010, kinda fixed the netcode issues, the switch from the Serious Engine 1 to the Serious Engine 3 erased the possibility to perform those slope jump tricks I mentioned before, which I disliked. Some people prefer playing a deathmatch on the HD version, but I was not a big fan of it because the game felt more slippery in its movement and hitting an enemy felt less impactful. One main advantage of the HD version is that you can easily host dedicated servers to duel or play with your friends, while in the classic version you could only choose a random server and pray that nobody else joined. I also wanna comment on the map pool of Serious Sam the second encounter. If the first encounter only sported one single map, God knows why, the second encounter presented a variety of pretty cool maps, each one borrowing the campaign themes and some even innovating upon them, like the technological Red Station. The most well-known maps in Serious Sam the second encounter are probably Yodeler, that map located in a snowy little Christmas town, with Santa Claus sometimes appearing and roaming around the map, and if you shot him he would drop health, armor or power-ups, and even grant you a frag if you killed him. Yeah, that's how 12 years old me managed to get a frag against one of the best players in Serious Sam. Spoiler, he was a cheater. And the soundtrack of the map Yodeler is just iconic, a rock version of Jingle Bell. Then we got Little Trouble and its beloved variation Shotty Trouble, where you spawn with a double barrel shotgun and that's the only weapon you can use. Shotty Trouble was loved by a lot of players cause Little Trouble was a bit too small to make all the grenade and rocket launcher spam bearable. When the servers would fill up, the admins would usually switch to bigger maps, like Red Station, a very huge and open map with a lot of jump pads, and in this map, whoever got the sniper rifle would dominate over everyone else. Then there was Hole, another fan favorite because it alternates tight spaces with an open arena in the middle and cause the magma area looks cool. But Fortress was certainly more beloved than Hole. God, I have so many memories in this map. We got Skulls and Bones too. It's another huge map that in my opinion is a bit too dispersive, but I like the way it's named and the medieval theme. Then there are some gimmicky maps like Compound, which are probably the least played. I don't know, I never liked the upside down sections, not even in the single player. I also need to make a special mention to the map Medieval Rage in Serious Sam HD. In fact, aside from Little Trouble and the Lost Tomb, Serious Sam Classic lacked small maps to duel on, and Medieval Rage, with its tight design and tight corners, managed to perfectly fill that gap. So yeah, with this video I wanted to pay an homage to my first multiplayer game ever. and it happened to be Serious Sam the Second Encounter, one of the most fun arena FPS there used to be. And what about you guys? Have you ever had the chance to play Deathmatch in Serious Sam Classic or HD? If not, call some of your old school friends and revive some of these dusty and empty servers. It pains me so much to see this deserted virtual landscape when 15 years ago people used to happily frag each other and make kids. Anyways guys, if you liked this video, subscribe.